ふよふよふわふわりうるるくるくるふわふわ飛び出したのおやおやふろふろふれる頭ふるふるふわふわり飛び出すよふよふよふわふわふわふれる頭ふわふわふわわふわ飛び出すよふわりふわりふわわふわふわふわわふわわふわふわふわふわ頭がふえるふえ頭ふえふえるふよふよよふえるふえふえるえるえるふえるふわふわふわりふわ頭飛び出すよよよよああほろほろがり転がる転がるたりたりらたりらふらふらふらわ頭だけいけにドボン頭だけいけにドボンうわ頭だけいけにドボンまた頭だけがいけにジャブジャブ頭だけがいけにドボン頭だけがいけに沈むねる頭だけがいけにドボン泡は息絶えきない頭だけいけにドボン頭だけいけにドボンうわわ頭だけいけにドボンまた頭だけがいけにタブジャブ頭だけがいけにドボン頭だけがいけに沈むねる頭だけがいけにドボン泡は息ができないそういうのだふくふくふくぷかぷかぷかり頭ふきふかりぷかぷかさまよ胸にくくかれていたりふふよよぷかぷかチプチプふるふるふるえふよぷかりぷかりふわわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわ頭がふえるふえ頭ふえふえるふるふるよよふえるふえるふえるふえるふえるふえるふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふわふ
Hello all, and welcome to the Himbros Tavern, or the Waystone Inn, as we like to call it. We are here again today to discuss chapters 69 through 79, and we have some juicy chapters to go over, so pull up a stool and enjoy the show. Alright, let's get the Mini-Mancer in here. Mini! Where are you? Where art thou? Come out, come out.
No! No!
It's time! What do you mean, no?
No! I'm comfy.
we have a thing to do. We do this every week, you know.
Comfy.
If Comfy is living life on the blade's edge of an axe, I guess so.
I'm living on the edge, Rune.
I think Bon Jovi would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Living on a prayer, living on an edge.
Hold on. It'll make me do stuff.
Yeah, we gotta do things. It's time. There's no tuition to go over.
Man, I think I'm still hungover from tuition.
Hell no. You had ample time to recover.
No.
Yes. I see you have the Himbros badge on. That's good.
Well, yeah. It's stuck.
It's never coming off. Good
no,
luck.
someone super glued it.
You're telling me you don't have any solvent?
No.
Well, I mean, it's not a bad thing. You can keep it. Keep it on.
Okay. I'll keep it on.
Right. So, Minnie, we have some juicy chapters today. Chapters 69, haha, funny number. Any nuts in chat?
Nut.
Through 79. And,
we have a bit of an adventure kind of going on today.
Wowie wow. Were these chapters long? Yes.
I was not expecting that. I forgot.
Thank you for the nut owler. Right on cue.
There we are.
That is a skill, being able to nut on command. Thank you for the hydrate. I will refresh. Geez, what did you guys think reading these chapters? I was like, yes, the book is moving. We are going. We are grooving.
We are grooving, and Kavath is going to Kavath no matter what we say.
He's doing his thing. I feel like we're at the heart of the book now, at least from looking at it. We should be, because we are damn
Almost
near
over?
2/3 of it through. Like, over 2/3 of it through. Please refresh. We need at least one Himbro in the tavern. We're here. We're here.
I'm a Himbro.
And we have honorary Himbros now. I gotta get those badges out to more people, to be honest. Went
There's
full
more
on
than
D&D.
one?
Yes. There is more than one. You need them to get in here, Minnie. What do you think? Or more than one Himbro.
I'm not special.
You were the first. What do you mean? You are special. Yours has a number 1, first edition on it.
It does not.
It does not.
I hope it doesn't nut.
Give to Bug. I give to Bug. We'll make sure yours gets the number 1 stamp on it. Does that make you feel any better?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, I'll settle on a maybe.
I'm mortally wounded.
You'll get over it.
This hurts worse than losing my arms.
Yeah, how did that feel, by the way?
Not
I don't know what
good.
that's like.
Not good.
Still working on breaking you out from wizard jail, but
Yeah, it's okay.
we'll see.
Everyone is.
I have a few ideas. Minnie can't anymore because you have no arms. You have tethers, I guess. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, there are tethers.
Tatters and tethers. I've seen you wield a sword with those things, so they definitely do the job.
I mean, of course. Where there's a will, there's a way.
You get more jam and toast, Ghost says.
I'm in. Jam toast is delicious. I would love jam toast.
As long as it's not resin, right?
Yes, no, let's not have denner resin. No, no, you do not put an archmancer on denner resin. That is a bad idea.
Minnie the Manic is what they would call you. Minnie the Manic.
Just another manic mini.
Give back the spear. Ghost, we're working on that loan. We gotta fill out the paperwork. It is a weapon of mass destruction. It is known as the Thought Destroyer. Never forget. Nova's here. Hello, hello, Nova. Actually, you should say hi to everybody in chat.
Valen.
We have
Yeah.
Valen, Owler, Ghost, Multiverse, Ludo. We have Bad Rhyme. We have Phil, 9635. Who else are we missing here?
Hi, Phil.
Of course, Orion Espresso. Okami. And I think that covers just about everyone except the scholar who
And
cannot
Raz
read.
and Felix.
I saved him for last. The scholar who cannot read. I still don't believe it. I cannot read.
But yet I can type.
Don't worry, we did the reading for you this week. And god damn, these chapters were good. I will say they were great. It gave us some endearing moments with a character that I usually say I hate, so it gave me a little more on the sliding scale of likable for this character. Don't at me, Mancer. Are you guys gonna steal the cloak? Actually, I thought about stealing Seb's cloak. Just saying.
No, I can't steal Seb's cloak.
But I can.
You can have fun with that. I'll just stay in wizard jail.
I'll fight you for it. But we can make a trade instead. How about that? You bite my... Oh, I kind of need those for my work, you know?
You don't.
Minnie, just look to your right, you know? Well, other right. There you go. You see that? I need my hands.
Shit, hands hold you back.
I can't relate. I can't relate. Much to trade for it. That is, we'll work it out. We'll work it out, Seb. Okami, hello. How are you doing? I hope you all are having an amazing Thursday. It's almost Friday. You almost made it through the week, and we are here at the Waystone Inn yet again, and another reason to nut. Yes, another reason to nut. But I want to get moving because we have a lot of pages to go over here.
Yes, and we're gonna start with Get Your Giggles Out of the Way Now, Chapter 69.
The nut number itself. So I think I'll go ahead and take the reins on this one.
Sure.
And I'm just gonna be kind of rattling off because there's a lot of things that happen in quick succession here. So we get off to
We get off.
We do get off to the nuts. Ludo, thank you, chat.
I'm sorry.
New cloak is being admired by Koth, and he's kind of leaving on a high note here in this chapter. Kilvin sold the rest of his emitters. He goes over to Imre to see if they have Basal filings for a new idea that he has for a large sympathy lamp that has 2 emitters in it. He said going over the river is usually good practice because the merchants at the university take advantage of students that need the materials, so they know to jack up the prices a little bit. So we get him, as per usual practice, going to the Olean to see if Dana's there, of course. I'm being greeted by Diok. He gets kind of irritated a little bit by Diok saying that Dana is his girl, and he does the little bratty thing that boys do. Dana is not my girl. No.
Teenager, again.
Yeah. So, him and Koth get to drinking at the back of the corner of the bar, talking about Dana, and asks how long that Diok has known Dana. Just about over 2 years, he says, and he's kind of ashamed being twice her age, but still pursuing this woman. Diok and Koth kind of go over what to drink. They say wine as it's good for reminiscence, as said by Takam. They talk of Dena and how they know her, and saying how she didn't quite mature over the years, per se. And Diok goes on to say she startles the eye and stutters the heart, just as always. He kind of equates her to a tree and is a little embarrassed in that equation. Um, he goes on to say how women hate Dana, and Koth is kind of perplexed by this idea, and he's asking Diak kind of genuinely, why do women hate Dana? And um, Diak is like, well, why else? Jealousy, right? When a woman steals all the eyes of men in a room, of course, women are also going to feel a little jealousy or envy, even. Koth kind of draws a brief similarity between Sim and women when speaking of jealousy, remembering that he had said that Diak has the finest girl on his arm again in this place. So a little jab at Sim went on there. I kind of enjoyed that. Quoth also goes on to say, it might have been Quoth or Diok, but I have this quoted. There is a sort of camaraderie that rarely exists except between men who have fought the same enemies and known the same women. It's enough to
Makes
make
about
you hate a
sense.
man. Yes. So, kind of the reason that Diok and Quoth are kind of bonding here is Denna. That's the tying thread. Diak goes on to speak of Denna's frequent leavings, and Quoth draws a comparison to the Rue. He says, we are Rue, meant to travel, and when my blood tells me to wander, I know enough to trust it. Those are his father's words that he's recalling here. Diak enlightens Quoth on Denna's nature, why she leaves town so much. She has no family, no support. She gains favor through the eyes of men living off their presence, and frequently skipping town upon their irritation or rough pursuals. Quoth thanks Diak for the new light that was shed upon the situation with Denna, and how he kind of like kicks himself how he didn't notice it before, but this is how Denna has been living over the years. And Quoth is still a boy and naive to the nature of social gatherings. Hell, he's lived as kind of like a feral animal over these years, so he has no idea what it's like to live a normal life in the city.
No.
So, at the end of this, they toast to Denna, full of delight, young and unbending, bright and fair, ever sought, ever alone, so wise and foolish, so merry and so sad. Gods of my fathers, keep her always so unchanging, past my understanding, and safe from harm. That's their toast. So,
I like it.
yeah, it's I think just from that little quote of the toast, you could see how the two have formed their camaraderie here. Claw's senses were dulled after having a little bit more wine, I believe. He starts walking back. We get to like a little fast forward here. And he mentions that he didn't even notice he was being followed when he headed back to the university. Dun dun dun. Before he knew it, he was at Newhall Lane when someone struck him with something blunt on the back of the head and had a knife pressed to his ribs. The men began talking about using the finder, how it's cleaner that way with no descriptions. The taller man searched for a match and the finder, which could be said to be a dowser, right?
Yeah.
Hoth was terrified because he recognized these voices as professionals, and he finally comes to the assumption that Ambrose has finally acted here. He's finally taking care of Quoth, who is the problem to him, the thorn in the side. So, Quoth drops his half bottle full of brandy he was carrying, and in kind of like a short breath, that little pool that was on the ground was set on fire and used as a momentary distraction. Quoth.
Yeah. Was this when he put it into like he used the basalt that he had for a sympathy lamp?
Yes, this is right after that. So he twists free, kind of like scoring the knife across his ribs as he's twisting free. And he sprints to a dead end, and a large man that was holding him was still putting out the fire on his leg. And of course, Quoth's pants are on fire as well, but he says, what is a burned leg as opposed to living, right?
Yeah.
He's on fire. Yes, he's on fire. So Quoth remembers in this moment what you had mentioned, the basal. And he remembers that it burns intensely with a white hot flame, but it requires a lot of heat to ignite to get that initial spark going. So basically what he does is he empties the bag into his hand and throws it out in a wide arc in front of them on the encroaching men. And he says throwing it was like throwing loose snow, to give you a rough idea of how it's flying out from his hand here. It's kind of like scattered in a haze in front of them. So he touched his bloody side to draw heat as a source, and there was explosion of white light shortly after that. Two men's screams could be heard as Quoth closed his eyes to embrace himself. Not embrace, brace himself, jeez. Yes, embrace himself.
In the middle of the street.
He hugged himself in the middle of this attack. One of the men falls, and the other tall man starts to babble. And I believe like it's said to have gone from screaming to moaning, and then he hears, "Oh God, Tim, my eyes, I'm blind."
Yeah, he was blinded, but temporarily.
So, exactly, this man needs a hug. So he comes to reason that one of the men ran into a low rafter beam upon the flash of light and knocked himself unconscious, and the other one that was screaming that he's blind was on his knees. Quoth began to tiptoe around them, but he had second thoughts, saying, basically, like, I should confirm that these are from Ambrose, and how they found me. So he starts going through all of this as he's tiptoeing away, and stops, and he says out loud that he called the lightning and they shouldn't have messed with Quoth's sword. Quoth kind of asks who sent him in this kind of regal, puffed up voice that he once used for the Tamerlane the Great part in one of the plays, and they let him know that they didn't know themselves. They just received the hair, the finder, and some coin. So the finder is what we're gonna call a dowser, or a dowsing agent. Quoth, very pleased with himself at this point, runs away. And he says, I believe, he'd like to say that he strode out of there tall and proud, but he took off running, and so fast and so blindly that he ran into a horse tether, realizing he wasn't being chased at all. So he kind of just clotheslines himself, falling to the ground. Yeah, Allard, person compass. Yes. A person compass.
It's honestly a good way to put it.
Really? I was trying to think of it, like, how I could rephrase it, and dowser is the only thing that came to mind, but then, like, I pictured a compass, and, Aller, you nailed it on the head. So, a person compass. For us unmagical sort, but not unmagical. So we get to Quoth trying to enter through his window at Anchors, right? And he notices it's not budging at all. And he comes to wonder why, and sees this kind of piece of paper that was folded over many times that is shoved into his window. and he tugged the paper free, and the window opened easily. Compass to find a person, obviously. Of course. How could I be so blind?
Baby.
So, basically, Cloth climbs in, undresses, takes his cloak off, and this is what I thought was like weird behavior. But I could see why he did it. His immediate instinct is just to take off his clothes and runs to the courtyard, right? The archives courtyard, I believe it was. Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, and he kind of just sits up there, taking off pieces of his hair and getting some of the roof tar to attach them to leaves, and just kind of throws them off of the roof, watching them spindle into every single direction. And I mean, going off of what they had told him, it's smart, but like, I don't know. I would have been a little bit more shaken after that whole ordeal. He just kind of acts right away, taking countermeasures. And I think that's a little admirable about Cloth.
No, he was right on that. As fast as he possibly could.
So basically, this was done to take the person finder or person compass, and if you walk through the town, it would be pointing all over the place because of these leaves carrying his hair everywhere. Yeah, he's very used to being nearly dead, living on the edge. So Cloth also goes on to mention that he could sense a pattern in the wind. The way it moved, it was complex. It was a pattern made of changing patterns. And as he's noticing this, he hears a voice. And none other than my favorite master, Elodin, is heard,
Hey.
kind of giving him a wave, and said how bad it is that I let somebody get up here without me noticing. And he kind of goes on to say, like, you're up awfully late studying, as Cloth is kind of like throwing these leaves into the wind, which I thought was also funny.
Yeah.
And Cloth kind of says that he doesn't know how long he's been up there. He's lost all sense of time, and he goes and reaches down to his bloody side and feels nothing but dried blood. So he had been up there for quite a while. Elodin says for Cloth to call him by his first name, and he's like, Master. As they're friends now. So
Yes, you can call me Master.
funny little joke Elodin is prodding in there. But Elodin speaks of this place once being called the Koyan Hale. And I don't know if I said that right. You can correct me if not.
Can't remember.
And later being called the Questioning Hall, and the superstition of how students used to write down questions that could be divined by how they left the gaps of the buildings for yes, no, maybe, elsewhere, and soon. So he kind of like laughs about the superstition, and it actually being not questioning hall, it was meant wind. This is the house of the wind. Due to a rough translation error. Cloth thanks him and says that he must be going, and Elodin nods and continues to watch the wind. So, little brief bonding there between people who we want to meet up, right? I hope we want them to meet up as readers here, because I sure do. I think Elodin, seeing him at this point, he picked up on Cloth being able to sense something different in the air at the asylum, right? Or the crookery. And I think at this moment, I think Elodin actually saw Cloth feeling the pattern of the wind. And I think that's what led him to call Quoth a friend in the first place, even though it was just in jest. I think that Eladin in this moment is really seeing the potential that Quoth has.
Hope. Though at the same time, I don't know. I actually might be the one person that's going to sit here and say, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe this is a bad idea.
Maybe not.
Look, Cabal has enough problems.
But, I mean, it is the book's name, right? So...
It is, I know.
We gotta go for it. Hello, Chowsy!
Hey,
Chowsy!
Chelsea.
Hello, hello. Hope you're having a good day, Chowsy.
Yeah. Best pupper.
And... Quoth, thinks over his situation and how it could be considered malfeasance, if word got out that, or if he did admit to it, right? And then
Yes.
thinks of them saying they already lost him twice. They did say that when they first found him. And they could know that he stays at Anchors at this point. He didn't know how long that they had been tailing him. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for your nuts. Hydrates and shrimp.
We're in chapter 69. This works.
It does.
Chat, give all your nuts.
On this check.
Nut check.
Give me a nut check. Wait, no, don't do that.
I'm not doing that.
No.
Just no.
We got the nuts. Layla and Ludo got us covered.
No.
Good. Good.
I don't know why. Sorry, Felix, I had to.
No.
Thank you. More nuts.
There we go.
It's chapter 69.
No.
We gotta get it out.
You have to. You have to.
We're coming to the end of it, so the nut is
Nut
out of
is-
stock. Maybe your personal stash,
No.
but we got a lot here. Look at this. Tommy, Layla, Ludo. We're getting nut donations.
I don't
No.
want that as a donation.
It's too late. It's already there.
I'm not cleaning up this bar.
That's true.
No.
Gotta have something to do after we close. There's a coffin dancing coming.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Get ready. Maybe it's not coming.
No.
I don't know. I'm waiting.
Oh, it might be. I just pictured Chowsy dancing to the coffin dance. You can see it.
I mean, this is the only thing we should.
There it is. Chowsy, bust a move.
Random bit. Enjoy. Runs off after tossing colored powder at you.
If you want to join that to the coffin dance.
Thank you, Okami, for the biddlies. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love that song. But yes, rip to the chapter because we're almost at the end. So we get back to Quoth reading the note saying that Denna missed him. She had to walk home alone. She much would have enjoyed his company. She has rooms at the Swan and Swale. And Quoth kind of is like, is this spelled wrong? And it's in Imri and says to find her before the 23rd. And Quoth is like, oh shit, it's the 28th. This must have been left after the fire, right?
And we're just gonna have to put out a good womp womp.
Yeah. But, I mean, Quoth makes a makeshift bandage. He thought of the blood left on the knife of the attackers and how it could be a better dowsing tool. And he kind of sets off again. He gathers a small folding knife that he won from Sim, his loot, his cloak, along with things of value, and he heads east across the river to the south docks at a seedy inn near the Omethi River. He stuffs his bloody shirt into a wine pot and made it watertight as he floated it downstream. And as we know, this could be used for misdirection, so he's really covering his tracks here. He goes to reason that if he was attacked, it would be reasonable to think that he would run away, right? So floating it down the river isn't too far off for any attacker to think that this is actually where he's going. So we have double measures being ensured here by Quoth.
Because, of course, he's going to do this, which, to his credit, is probably going to save his life.
I wonder, like, what would have happened if he didn't do these steps, right?
I think Jackass would have had the last yeehaw.
For sure. Because man's made of money, right? Well, his father's made of money, I should say.
Yes, but still.
Oh, ye noble brats. But yeah, that is the coffin dance for the end of the chapter. Exciting chapter, but not the most exciting thing that happens throughout all these, so we could keep going. Mancer, do you want me to begin, or do you want to take hold for this one?
Sure, I can take hold for this one. I think this chapter is actually pretty fun, so we're gonna start off with chapter 70, and Kavoth wakes up and he's a bit disorientated as he is in a different tavern where he paid for a private room and a bath, which pretty much decimated his limited income to the point where he's not quite sure if he's going to be able to do anything. And he tries to go along and he gets himself a little bit of breakfast. He's remarking that he doesn't know what to do. He's supposed to be reporting to the Medica in an hour and knows that if he is absent, this will likely make his tuition higher for next term. And of course, he's thinking about all of this, and maybe we would have had just a chapter of him going, do I talk to the masters? What do I do? But no. He overhears two traders that are there and start talking about, you guessed it, up in Traben way, there was a wedding that went really bad with blue fire. And, of course, Kavoth immediately perks up at this because this is the first time. And he goes over and immediately screws up by asking, like, gentlemen, good morning, instead of, hey, fellas.
Yeah.
And they're immediately put on guard, and he tries to say that he has a cousin up that way. They're not biting at all, but does manage to figure out that it's happened very recently. This was less, because apparently this happened about a day ago, and they called out his bluff when he's like, yeah, I've heard about there was some trouble at a wedding. They're like, bullshit, you didn't hear anything. We're like the first ones to bring it to the area.
Mm-hmm.
So needless to say, Kavoth goes, well, the Chandrian are in Traben. I'm going to Traben. Which, what do you know? Kind of serendipitous that he's like, I don't know if I can go back to school right now.
Yeah, it's just like a snowballing nature that this man has. It's like, I'm acting already, I'm gonna keep acting, right? No thoughts, just go.
Yes. And he decides that he needs to go that way, and it's going to be, he's also annoyed, and it's just a fun little thing that, what is it? Like, it's a solid span. And he's like, oh no, that's farmers trying to give a thing. That's actually not a unit of measure at all. That means nothing.
Yeah, a league it was, right?
A league.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the league.
And
like, what is that?
I think the barkeeper is like, she snaps at him, like, after he's like, well, actually, he snaps at the barkeeper after she's like, how long it takes, and he's like, I asked how far, not how long, and then she gives it in leagues, and then she yells down to the other guy at the end of the table, and he gives it how long on land, if not river, and she snaps at him, and it's like, I asked how far, not how long.
No, that was incredibly amusing. And I gotta appreciate innkeepers in all of this.
Yeah.
What are they supposed to do? But with everything, he figures out that it's about 70 miles. So he needs a good horse, and horses cost money. So where is he going to go to get this money? That's right, he's going to Devi. Honestly, probably one of the top 3 best girls, because I will put Fella and Mola up there as well.
For sure. She might be number 1 or 2 for me, but definitely top 3.
I think she might be top for me. I think she actually beats out Fella for me.
I could see that. No argument there.
No, so Devi he goes to see Devi. He's like, well, Kavon, I wasn't expecting you today. Are you here for company? And she kind of sighed, like, does the towards her bed in the side.
Mm-hmm.
Coming on stronger than anybody, but completely DTF, so we stand that. But she explains that there was some rumors and hubbub about a member of the university causing havoc and attacking 2 people. And of course, Kavath breaks it that it was him and asks her to spread a rumor saying that he's mad and he'll do worse to anyone else who tries. He does explain it, and Devi ends up patching up his stab wound because he was stabbed in all of this, and it becomes clear that Devi has at least trained in the Medica. Devi.
No, not Debbie.
Devi.
Debbie.
Devi.
Yeah, he does make an idle threat.
And including their dogs.
To kill their family and their dogs. And
he's like, I don't know, I don't think I can include the dogs. That's going too far.
Yeah, Debbie's distaste was with the dog remark, and I thought that was so great.
Yes. Like, no, not the whole family, nothing like that. But don't hurt the dogs, man. What have the dogs ever done to you? And I was like, you know what? Mad respect. I get this. So, what does Kavoth ask for? He just straight up sits there and asks Devi for 35 talents. And Devi nearly loses her mind laughing.
Yeah.
She's like, boy, you are barely good for the 4 talents you currently owe me. I am not giving you 35. Are you out of your mind? You're cute, but I ain't dumb.
Yeah, and Devi is kind of like... They digress back from the conversation, right? It goes back into the other one, and we're talking about how Kilvin would have been in a froth over this, I believe it was said in that manner. And Quoth mulling over if the men were trying to kill him or beat him, because she suggests, like, maybe they were just out to give you a scare and beat you, right?
He's like, no, but they were explicitly after blood.
And Devi kind of, like, gave a good reason, too. She's like, well, they did have a knife, but, like, do I need blood to get my debts repaid? And she's like, I have a point here, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a step.
No, and again, this is also Devi going, whoa, you were attacked, man. Like, malfeasance aside, you were attacked and had to defend yourself. Like, you should be going to the masters. Like, you do not have to take anything into your own hands right now. You are a student. You're protected. Like, go talk to them. And of course, Kavath, being Kavath, doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course he doesn't. But, right. So, he tries to basically, after anything, there's a bit of a disgruntlement over the amount of coin. So what does he put in offer? Because he can't actually pay her. He offers a trade. He offers his loot in collateral, and in addition to that, access to the archives. In addition to her, she saw his, pretty much his thieves' lamp, and was like, oh, I could take this! Of course, he can't sell it, or Kilvin would be mad. So at least he had the sense for that. But, all sense lost the next sentence when he says, I can help you sneak into the archives.
Mm-hmm. And, I think Devi kind of is, like, pouring out the loot in his bag, too, and Devi's like, oh, hello, when she sees the little emitter that he made, that he was cautioned by Kilvin that it's not to be in anyone else's hands, and her eyes are lighting up.
Like, I could get into so much fun trouble with this?
Yeah.
But still, he ends up agreeing to, I believe, 20 talents?
Yes.
It was 20 talents, and he has to go find a horse. but it's pretty much they're going to continually going back and forth. But still, he's offering access to the archives. Can anyone hear the sounds of expulsion?
Maybe worse.
Yeah, her eyes nearly popped out of her skull at the mention of the archives. Like, she
Literally.
wants this bad enough that she was like, yeah, 20 talons, that's fine.
Yep. And I think it was like a little edgy boy moment at the end. Cloth was like, I'm just informing you as to the conditions of the loan. It's 20 talents or nothing. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear from the beginning.
So,
Completely reading Debbie at the mention of the archives, right?
So okay, I need to go on a little tangent here of, especially I feel like through this read through of this book, man, I want to backhand Kavoth in practically every chapter.
For sure.
He just continually makes the wrong choice over and over. And the level of pride and hubris when just slight amount of humility or listening to the people around him could probably have led him to a very comfortable and nice life.
I personally subscribe to the idea that a lot of like fanfics could be written where Cloth has a nice life where he didn't make all these decisions. You know, like I still think about like what would have happened if he went with the farmer and the boy when he got dropped off at Tarbine.
Yeah, and didn't end up homeless on the street of Tarbine. Like, he could have had a decent life. Just been pastoral. It could have been great.
I might make that
But
another one
no.
of my side projects.
I will read that. But it's like, I feel like I'm having the exact same reaction to this as when I read Harry Potter as an adult, which is me wanting to throttle the characters saying, talk to an adult.
I agree. I think a lot of the choices are made on naivety, right? And a lot of action before thinking. It's just kind of impulsive, and I could kind of see like a little bit of maybe ADD in Kloth's character with this. He definitely has like a ooh shiny, and then I'm gonna pursue this shiny right in the moment, right?
Hmm.
And
No.
I
It's just a lot, man.
it is a lot. It is a lot. So that's the end of chapter 70. 71 cuts to like 3 minutes of him being out of Devi's office, and he's immediately looking for a horse already, right?
This boy's not wasting any time. Get ready, because to buckle in, because we're about to have like breakneck speed chapters.
Yeah, these are gonna be whiplash. So Cloth gets shopping for a horse. He's met with a Keldish man named Kerva. Or Kerva.
Erva.
He frequently cuts the man off and ignores him as he's inspecting all the horses. Cloth is smart, but has the wisdom and foresight of a suicidal lemming.
Facts. Spitting straight facts as always. Power.
Great comparison. But this man is going on about every horse that Cloth is looking at, and before the man is even done giving a description of the horse, he just moves to the next one. Cloth is like wearing this mask now that he does when he's buying things. After Cloth jingles his purse saying that the Keldish man is wasting his time, Cloth threatens the man to set fire to his house and kill him and cook him and eat him while his neighbors watch him if he makes him miss this rare opportunity. So the Keldish man is kind of like standing there with his jaw dropped, like, I don't know if
Who
you're
do you think you are?
mad or if you're nobility. Who do you think you are? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
He didn't, and Cloth even says he didn't think if he stunned the man or if the man actually thought he was a noble or just plain mad. So the man gets one of his stable boys and says, bring the horse, and the man asks how hard of riding he will be doing, and Cloth is like, very hard. And he says that he will also need a saddle and tack. He says nothing fancy, and Cloth gets shown the horse and or asked to get shown the horse, and He's saying, I'll take a Valder or a Valder mix. Krishayan. Am I saying these right?
You actually are.
Okay. Are those actual horse names, by the way?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I was wondering that. I thought you might know better than I would. The man lets him know that he wants 2 solid marks, which is 20 talents even, right?
Yes.
For the full-blooded Krishayan. Cloth said he was in no mood for a lengthy dicker, and they bring out this horse, which is said to be a monster of a horse, 18 hands tall, proud, black from nose to tip of tail. And the man says the coloring is why he's asking the price, and some young lord would pay just for the look of him. Cloth goes on to, like, inspect the horse, gets a little closer, talks with the tone of voice his father had taught him to talk to horses with, so they get used to you. Feel out the horse, per se. And Cloth asks the horse name as he gauges the horse's temperament. Cloth starts to speak Siaru to the horse, going over the names Cole and Siaru, Shadow and Siaru, and then he arrives at what he thinks he's saying is first night, or twilight, it would be. And the horse kind of relaxes and nuzzles him at the familiar language, and the horse nuzzling him was probably because of Cloth's food that he got from that tavern back where he heard the news. So the name they arrived at is Keth Selen. Did I say that right? Keth Selen?
Your guess is as good as mine.
All right. Seemed to suit the name for him. The horse shies a bit to his right side, he is told, so it's kind of...
He might spook.
Yeah, he might spook. Kind of reasonable to admit he might spook to the right side. So the horse is trained close rein and not trooper style, which Cloth is kind of like, I could still do it. They get to haggling a bit, and the man is pretty much like, okay, 16 talents. And Cloth is like, wait, what? How about 15? And the deal is made. So this man was asking 20 whole talents beforehand and quickly dropped down to 16 and then 15 like it was nothing. And Cloth is still kind of like, why did he do that? But it doesn't matter, right? We're still going. Yes, we are still guessing fictitious language. I will continually do that too.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
But I kind of like that. Like, make up your own language. It's cool. I'm all for it. It's fantasy, right? Have a little flair.
Yeah.
So, Cloth gets on his way. He grapples with the pace at which he should be riding at first. He takes a logical stance to keep the horse in good spirits and good condition along the whole way, knowing that he has to ride 50 to 80 miles, right? The horse initially wants to go faster, but Cloth takes him down to a walk, and then a trot, and then a canter, and Cloth kind of goes over that the trotting killed him a little bit because of his fresh stitches in his side. So he gets him to a canter for another mile, and then a gallop finally 4 miles in. Cloth thinks of his dramatic figure that he must be cutting in a full cloak as he rides this horse at breakneck speeds. And you get his admiration or sense of admiration here for wearing cloaks again. Like, every chance he gets to kind of compliment how cloaks make his figure look, he will do so.
This man thinks he's Tamerlane the Great. I'm just saying.
He does. And after like this going on for a little while, he feels the wear of the cloak tugging on his neck. So he tucks it into his saddlebag, kind of like admitting like, okay, the flashiness has lost its novelty. After an hour and a half of riding, Selen was sweating and breathing hard, so Cloth says that he also says that riding at a gallop is just as hard as running. I know nothing about riding horses, but I'll take his word for it. Have you ever ridden a horse?
Yes.
Is it? Is it as hard as running?
You're using a lot of different muscles, so it can be a bit tricky, but I mean, I really didn't have much issue with it. It does wear you out, though.
Yeah, and he was saying his legs were rubbery mess after that.
Yeah, that's pretty on point.
Okay. I've always wanted to, never had the chance to yet. But he says unless you want to make your horse work twice as hard every mile, you need to actually put in the right form with the gallop. And I'm going to trust you on that you probably do have to do a right form, and it's probably a little more natural for others than some, you know.
Well, yeah, the thing is that if you don't hold your form right, you can actually endanger the horse and yourself, because if you're not sitting right or anything else, it's uncomfortable for them as it is uncomfortable for you. And you need to keep form, because if they spook, you're less likely to go falling off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. I'm going to add that to one of my bucket lists of things to do here. Soon. I'll be writing soon. But he walks for 10 minutes with Selen and finds a creek to let the horse drink for a long minute, not over drink and get the tummy rattles with water. He mounts up, gets back to galloping by slow stages, and he notices something weird after passing through a stream. Like, it was 4 times, I think they said, and it smells of like solvents and acids, and he ventures to guess there must be like a tannery upriver or something. So they get to this like hill crest, and he sees a tinker, and Quoth knows like there's always time to help a tinker and pay his respects, right? So he gets down to talking with the tinker, and the tinker lets him know that his donkey has a stone bruise in her forefoot, and the donkey can no longer carry the load. So Cloth is now weighted with helping a tinker out and getting to his destination, and he knows he has to get to Trebon, whatever. The tinker says that they're only a half a mile out, and it was only an hour after noon. So he made really good time with this horse. This horse is a monster. So the tinker continues saying he needs to get to Eavesdown Docks in the east, and the tinker eyes Quoth's horse, saying he would need a new pack animal. And Quoth tries not to look eager, because this is what he wanted in the beginning, right? He wanted to get to Trebon and
Raven.
offload his horse, right? Because
Yeah.
he has no need for it. So he gets to bargaining with the tinker, and the tinker says that, Quoth, you're a bad liar. There's no way you came from Imre up to here in that amount of time. And he sees the wear on the horse, and Quoth lets him know that he's of the Edema Rue, and he would never lie to a tinker. And Tinker says that it was almost a 60-mile ride, but we don't see many of your kind on the road anymore, so I'm gonna take your word for it. Tinker then asks how Quoth's legs are, and Quoth says the horse is good for at least another 10 miles, where I can't say the same for myself, even for a mile. Tinker says he would be Orin Velseter if the horse was all black, and Quoth is like, what? And he turns around to see the left hind foot is distinct washed out gray, like a sock. And it would attribute to the solvent smell when they cross the creeks. So Quoth initially just knee-jerk reaction curses the man that sold him the dyed horse, and then the tinker also lets him know that his Siaru is rusty. Ket Selem would be first night, and Ket Selhan means sock. So Quoth named his horse One Sock, So it explains everything. This
Like,
is
oh no, they know.
this is why the man dropped his price so much. He thought that Quoth knew his secret. He painted the horse's leg black. Yeah, specifically Aru on their own. And this is kind of like the serendipitous nature that Quoth has. It's like I'm making bad decisions, but everything is going right for now, right?
Mhm.
So the one sock thing was just kind of happenstance falling in his lap that happened between him and circumstance. It couldn't be more perfect, right?
No, it really couldn't.
So the Tinker gets to the trade that he's offering and pulls out a Loden Stone, showing the magnetism at first, and Quoth lets the Tinker know that he had to take a loan from a dangerous woman for the horse, who could be still expecting things from him. So the Tinker lets him know that the Star Iron is worth about 18 talents if you're cutting a hole in your purse. So 18 talents at the least. So Quoth is like, yes, this is nice. I like this. Money.
Money is good.
And the Tinker, as he's grabbing the reins, he kind of hears Quoth go, and for the tack and saddle?
He goes, smart boy.
He's like, clever boy, yeah. And he goes to ask of the Mothin wedding, and the Tinker says he wasn't there, and it happened yesterday. The Tinker was at the ironworks, I believe. Tinker offers a blanket, a shirt, a brand, and 3 jots, and they shake on it. And Quoth wonders if he slighted the Tinker by turning down the first offer of bottles of wine, right?
And rope.
And rope. Rope and bottles of wine. Which, we'll come back to that later.
Yep.
Quoth walks up the hill crest and sizes up. Say the name again, one more time.
Traben.
Traben. Sizes up Traben. The locals were setting up straw effigies of shamblemen, indicating that they are a backwater community, in fact. Quoth thinks of his fondness for traditional superstitions, and he reminisces on how his father used to do this to size up towns. He takes a look at the Tellin Church in the town, and it being the nicest building in town, 3 stories tall, and marvels at the large iron wheel that's above the entrance. And I think he ventures to guess it weighs about a ton. A 10-foot wheel about? So Quoth makes his way to the inn that he sees. He asks the keeper about the wedding, saying his cousin had come. And the innkeeper turns kind of stone cold, and the 2 men that were paying attention to the conversation at the end of the bar kind of like divert their gaze, indicating that something bad happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Picks up on the body language. The innkeeper says he doesn't care to talk about it, as he touches the iron head of a nail on the bar, so kind of like your knock on wood here superstition. The innkeeper says, after Quoth pulls out a story, that he has to check for his family, that there is someone who was at the wedding, and he needs to know what happened. So after pressing the innkeeper lets Quoth know that there is somebody that was at the wedding actually staying in the tavern. A survivor. One survivor. So Quoth goes up, and to his surprise, it is Denna.
Denna. Also known as Debbie. No, she's not Debbie. That was Debbie.
Also known as Debbie to us.
Yes.
Debbie is Little Debbie, and then Denna is Debbie. There we go.
Now Denna is just Deborah. We don't give her
Yeah,
respect.
actually, that's better. We'll call Denna Deborah. But Denna, Quoth knows from just seeing the back of her head as she's turned to face the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is how much this boy is infatuated and enchanted by this woman. Denna has a bruise on her temple and a bandaged arm. She remarks on a special type of man to show up before even knowing that there was trouble, and that has to be Koth. She takes 2 steps and she's like, "Yep, we got to get out of here. I can walk."
Yeah.
So that is the end of our chapter. Kind of like happenstance reuniting with Denna after the note. And I know my first reading, I was just like, what?
I'm just saying, if you want to take the next chapter, because I call pegs.
Okay. I was waiting for you to say something about that because we didn't get to talk much before this, but I knew you were going to go giddy over that, so.
I love pegs.
Okay, so chapter 72. They try to leave the inn, right? They go kind of like bull rushing forward towards the door after checking the back alley door to see if it was locked, and of course it was. So I assume that's kind of how Denna operates, right? She immediately instinctually goes for the back door.
No comments, chat.
That went right over my head. To the front. So they get to the front. The innkeeper's calling out saying that I'm out of a half a talent with all the room, meals, and doctor patching her up. He mentioned if the constable had allowed her to leave yet. And Koth scathingly says pennies for the plagued or something like that. What was the quote? Pennies?
Oh, shoot. Okay, hold on. This is like early on.
Yeah, it's very early. It's like the first page. But he throws 5 jots across the bar as he leaves.
Oh, knackers profit from a plague.
There we go. Knackers profit from the plague. There we go. Just very angrily as they leave. Denna talks of the care she was left in, the woman that cared for her, the constable that touched her leg, the mayor that barked questions at her. Denna says that she wants to head to the Mountain Farm to look for her things, and Koth mentions that he was heading there too, after asking where does she want to go. A farmer...
Right, it is Mothin.
Mothin? Okay, Mothin.
Yeah.
Something back door. Farmer in an open-topped cart is seen passing. Denna asks for passage, and he says that he's going to Bororil, and that they could walk from there. So they get on the cart, and they ride in silence. Koth is just kind of like bottled energy here, trying to fight the urge to bombard her with questions, right? So it's kind of like an awkward moment. Knacker is someone who disposes of dead bodies, usually horse. Okay, I did not know that. Did you know that?
I did not.
Learned something new. So, they get to the stop. Koth mentions that he got her. And not, Denna said, Koth actually did her a favor for missing their meeting because she met a man that she thinks will be her patron before the year is out. Says the man is obsessed with his privacy and that Denna doesn't know if the name that he gave her is even real. And he struggled to give her a name even after 2 span, I believe it said.
You are correct.
Any dead animal that is not fit for food, basically. Okay. Still using English slang. Alright. So, Klaus scoffs that he is probably a wealthy merchant, and Denna says, half a loaf is better than none. I'm tired of having no loaf at all. And the man is dodgy, setting up meetings and not showing up, and she had been working really hard to reel him in. The man tested her a few times, one with a woman offering money for info, and then a second time that she thinks was a test, very well could not have been, but two men threatened her and said he better be worth. Qua says to this that he better be worth bags of money for you dealing with this shit. Right.
Yeah.
And Dana kind of like was a little strung out, like addressing this and tiptoeing around it because she didn't know how Quanth would feel, but at Quath's comment, Dana kind of like relaxes her shoulders and feels a sense of security that Quath was not judging her.
Yes. And, like, good on him for not judging her, but, you know, this is also, like, all the warning bells.
Right. But at the same time, like, I can't help but feel like Dana probably hasn't had the best life either here.
No, she clearly has not.
Half the loaf is the kind of thing someone would say who has had a truly shitty life. Yes. Because bread is not something that is within their grasp every single day, right? Living on Tarbean, you could see that Quoth got excited for even just a corner of bread that he got from Trappist.
Yes.
So, getting back to the story, she says that he had told her to show up at this wedding, and Quoth says to come up with a name for him after they struggle in speech, but Dena denies all the names that Quoth suggests, and a leaf floats in the wind into Quoth's mouth, causing him to sputter and cough, and Dena finds this delightful, and stating that the wind has decided he will be called Master Ash. I wrote this down because I don't know if it's foreshadowing, but it said right after, the leaf was yellow and shaped like a spearhead that Quoth fished out of his mouth. I believe it was italicized too, so it has to mean something.
I can't remember, so I guess we'll have to find out.
It could be later foreshadowing, but like I noticed that this read through and I was like, oh, okay. This has to mean something. Well, the leaf was an elm. Yes, that was said as well. Also, the name Ash has a lot of theories. I could imagine. I have my own theories, but we will speculate when the time is right, right? We're just getting a little bit of information to what the dealings of Dena is in this chapter, and previously we just kind of thought she was like an in and out character, like, oh, we hate her, she has no substance, she's just bewitched this our favorite character, right? So now
Yeah.
now we're getting insight. Quoth notices a part of his arm where her hand rested, and he says it suddenly feels very cold after she takes it away, equating her to the warmth in his life, or the spark. There's a lot of analogies where, at least in this book, women are compared to fire, and you see that subtly throughout these chapters with Dena and all of the mentions of warmth of breath, warmth of touch. Everything comes into play here.
Correct. And I think it's also, like, it's a good analogy to make, but it also feels like one that Kvothe would make.
Yeah, it doesn't feel unnatural at all. It feels like it came from him and not the writer.
Which is appreciated.
For sure. I know, like, that's one thing that I struggle a lot with, is just getting into a character's mindset for dialogue, even. So I could admire that about Rothfuss here in these chapters. He really does sink his whole being into the character that he is writing.
He really does, and he's we've talked about it before and gushed, but he is an exceptional writer in that it feels like the character talking, which is not always the case when you're dealing with things in the first person.
In fact, I find first person very, very challenging to write. Very, very challenging.
You'd think it'd be easier, but it's really not.
No, it's certainly not. I struggle enough with just third person, right? So this adds
Don't
a
I
whole
hear you
layer.
there?
Have you seen this dangerous lunatic? Yeah, she's right next to me.
What?
Schultze was asking, have I seen this dangerous lunatic?
Schultze!
No knife, but she does have a badge that has 5 pointed ends, so I'll be careful.
Oh, I'm going to use that thing like a ninja star.
Honestly, I could see that happening. It's very form-fitting.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I'm totally there for it.
So, getting back into it, Denna goes on to continue that the wedding, about the wedding, after washing ash out of her eye as well, that she played before the wedding, and when they got ready for supper, she excused herself and found Master Ash by the barn, and he asked who was there, how many people, what they looked like, kind of like getting information, and Koth is kind of like, is he a spy? What the hell?
I'm here.
Yeah. So then he heard something and it excused himself from Denna and told her to wait for 10 minutes about as he went towards the farmhouse.
Yes. The farmhouse.
If you're able to write a compelling book written in second person, you're just built different.
You know what? I will agree. I will agree. If you can read about this, you go anywhere. I'll be absolutely there for it.
So, Quoth offers then to cook for Denna, after her saying she's cold and hungry. Denna says that she could hear, back in the story, that she could hear screaming and shouting and then saw fire through the tree line. And then is questioned by Quoth what color was the fire. Denna at this point grows suspicious and says that she's been talking a lot. Why don't we share here? Why don't you tell me why you're here, really, Quoth? And
Yeah, but you can't blame her.
no, but again, Quoth is a bad liar. Masters at the university heard some odd rumors, and Quoth said he was sent here to see if they're true or if they're a lie. And Quoth then reflects on a lie being a good one, and that he learned it acting and storytelling from his father. So Denna's like, you're full of shit.
Yep. Immediately. No holds bar.
And says she knows what it's like to have secrets, and she apologizes to Quoth for pushing him. And Quoth stays silent, but for a moment he did feel like the whole story of his troop would pour forth from his lips. So Denna gets to...
Didn't.
It didn't. We just had silence, and we get to them eating an apple, each of them respectively together, and she teases Quoth for eating the core of the apple. He eats it left to right and then from the bottom up. She says that you'll never find your true love this way. So she shows him by twisting the stem and thinking a letter, and if it twists off, you know the first letter of the name of your true love. She does it once and it breaks off. So Quoth looks at his apple with next to nothing left, and he bites the rest of it, and he just throws the stem, and he's like, it looks like I'm destined to be loveless. And Denna's like, there you go again with those 7 words.
They're horrible for one another.
Yeah. Toxic.
They are toxic as heck for one another.
Yeah, he eats every atom of the apple. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't eat the stem.
In another time, he'd be like, that's wasteful. Eat that damn stem.
Yeah. I literally think of, like, somebody just like dipping the apple into their mouth and pulling it up by the stem and there being nothing left. This is Quaff. This is how he eats, but like you could see that he learned this from Tarbean, right? These
Yes.
are hard learned habits. So just imagining the clip of Charlie Chaplin eating a shoe. Yes, just picture that. Perfect for the situation.
It would be rather perfect, actually.
So, Kothis teased about the seeds being bad, and then he states there isn't enough cyanide in them to hurt anyone. You would need a bucket full to kill somebody, which is the truth. That is true. They react with the hydrochloric acid in your stomach to actually form cyanide. You didn't hear that from me, though.
I was gonna say, that's a rather poignant information there, sir.
I took some classes, you know. Like,
Oh yeah, you
well,
took some classes?
it wasn't the university, but it was a university.
I see.
Cloth urges her to continue the story, and she states that it was in fact blue fire, and that she saw figures around the fire, and she bolted like hell into a tree, and that she came back to see if Master Ash was there. Cloth knew from working in Medica that her injuries did not quite add up to what she said had happened. He's like, it had to be an odd-shaped tree to get those injuries, right?
Yes.
But he doesn't push it any further. They actually taste like almonds, first-hand account from my mum, who used to eat them as a kid.
Well then.
I used to eat the core of apples too, just saying.
Well, I don't know what to say to that.
Eat the apple and the seeds, yep. Yeah, I used to eat the whole thing. Oh, not just Gray's apple seeds. Okay, I was like, dude, you mean like it just was popping apple seeds as a snack? Thank you for the clarification. You cleared things up. So they continue on. They get to the farmhouse, and Quoth notices that the family was wealthy, judging on the structure of the house. He questions if there was anything that could have caused someone to go to this extent. To which Dennis says, yes, probably, but not to this level of brutality, right? Not to the point of murder for 26 people. Hydration time.
Yeah, hydration time, nice.
So, Quoth uses sympathy to light a shingle on fire, and Dennis, surprised, but forces herself to be nonchalant about it. And Quoth says, oh, this is just some of the dark and unsavory ways that they teach us at the university, right?
Yeah, he's being edgy again.
Mm-hmm. But also eager to show off what he learned. I could see, like, him in this situation trying to impress Denna.
Yes.
So, Denna lets on that a lyre was left here after Quoth pieces together that the fire couldn't have been that bad because the second story was mostly intact. So, Dennis says that I was actually given a 7-string lyre by my patron. And Quoth kind of flatters her, saying that the lyre is archaic and unfit to accompany her voice, and Denna agrees to push for a harp next time.
Her.
So, Quoth kind of, like, continues looking around, prodding at the farmhouse, and isn't finding much of anything, and he's getting frustrated. He's like, something's missing here. And he kind of resigns himself to giving up, and Dennis says she needs to look around a bit after discussing what people were talking of. Quoth leans on an iron water pump, and the handle just snaps in half under his own weight. And
Yeah, that checks out.
Denna remembers that the father was bragging about it being brand new, and there's no way it could have rusted through after being placed, right? Quoth pushes her to say, "What do you think happened here?" As he's having this kind of revelation, it was the Chandrian. And Denna sidesteps it at first, but Quoth asks if she knows the children's song and sings of the Chandrian before she quietly chants the chorus, noticeably paler. So Denna has this realization as well that it was probably the Chandrian. And these stories aren't just children's stories to scare people. Quoth realizes that they killed his troop and they killed the people at this wedding. He teases Denna, like finding Denna is like finding a lost treasure or a fae, and Denna kind of counters that Quoth has a little fae in himself, and she says that you're never where I look, and you appear like a rainbow in front of me, all unexpected. Cutesy back and forthness throughout all of these chapters. So much flirting.
Hate it.
The two get close, and she asks, "What now?" And Quoth answers, "A drink of water," and then why the Chandrian attacked here. And Denna's like, "Oh, a drink of water is so simple," and then a question like that straight after. You really are two extremes, huh?
Yeah, she definitely. The fact that she was just so on board, like, oh, the Chandrian did it? Sure, I'm here. It's a little bit sus.
Isn't there a fae called the Denaling in the universe? I think it was mentioned later in one of the chapters. It was called Dennerling, but I don't know about universality, like, outside of this book. Could you offer any insight into that?
Nope, I have no clue.
Yeah, they do mention Dennerling. And I thought that was poignant remembering this part of it too, so that was a good catch there. The two question their sanity after they believe it was the Chandrian. They head to the bluff where Ash had left Denna for a trail, if any. Quoth questions what song she sang at the wedding, and Aunt M's tub was...
It was like, no!
Yes, Quoth was like, no, at a wedding? He kind of like gasps in surprise, and she's like, yeah, I was asked by a drunk grandfather, so I sang it. And they searched in futility at the site where Ash was last seen. Quoth offers what little knowledge that he had in woodcraft, he calls it, what he learned from the hunter from his trooper days. And he taught Denna very quickly, very brief explanation of what to look for. They wash up in a river, and beforehand, Quoth is thinking of these stories where young lovers meet at a river and what happens in them. He kind of like is off in space thinking of this. But I think at this point they just resign to washing off their face and their hair. They eat an apple, passing it back and forth, and Denna sang for him one verse of Come Wash, and Quoth, in his telling, chooses to keep the verse to himself. He's like, this was for me, it's mine. I'm completely not telling you what she said.
Neener, neener, pumpkin eater.
Yeah, he's like, I'll let your mind wander, chronicler. But, yeah, that was chapter 72.
Alright, we're here for my favorite! Guys, I'm I'm about to do some accents really, really badly. I'm so sorry.
I am so excited to see what this sounds like.
Hello, pigs! Right, today we're going to be talking about the chapter called Pigs. What happens here? Well, Dan and Kavoth are out in the woods. They're looking for themselves for a trail and whatnot to try and see if they can find where her potential patron has done run off to. Kavoth is being good. He's trying to teach her how to find things, telling her how she's making a muck of things, pretty much just doing actually what he does well and is not being a complete and utter conceited creep for once. Excellent. And they come across a bit, and then there's a pig. And it's someone's pig. Where did the pig come from? No one knows. I'm trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. And they immediately go from pigs to talking about knives. Excellent way to go about it. And talking about how a woman with a knife out is looking for trouble, but a woman with a knife on her is prepared for danger. And then we get arguably the best character in the entire story ever. The shepherd. The shepherd who goes, "Hello, pigs! Pigs, 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 pigs!" And, "Hello, tain't that be afraid? Tay wouldn't bite." And it's great. The pigs won't bite. They're wonderful, wonderful piggies. The best kind of piggies. Oh, I thought I heard something down on the waters anyways. And it keeps on going and going. And Kavoth joins in. He joins in. And suddenly, we have a bumpkin off. And he asks about the wedding. "What is Hen are doing out here? I thought I heard something." And Kavoth puts back, "It were me cousin. She dey have a lovely voice for scarring, don't she? Oh, I'm great tired she met she. You clip me Kavoth." And makes the comment, because I can't do this voice for everything, that the shepherd is so glad, so glad that he has met someone who speaks properly. And Kavoth is glad to say, Mother said, wool in the mouth, wool in the mind. And you'd think this was the greatest revelation in the history of the world, because this is how we're going to talk for this entire chapter. If you read the chapter title thought pegs and thought, oh, maybe come something kind of magic. No. Pigs. Always about the pigs.
I don't know about you, but like I had to read all of the sentences like 4 times to actually get what was being said.
I wish I could say I had to do that, but I was immediately like,
understood?
no, I get this.
Oh my god, you speak fluent bumpkin.
I speak fluent grandmother.
Got it.
And Denna can't do this voice very well, so she's the shy sister. And they end up having themselves a bit of a meal. It's delicious. They have pork, obviously, because there's pigs. Poor pigs have to watch it. And yeah, here we also have, I believe this is the first instance we have of Kavoth realizing he really should have got that wine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wine is mentioned.
The wine's mentioned, I really should have had that, shouldn't I? I really should have listened to the tinker. That would have been great right now. And Denna talking about how, strawberry wine would have been great.
Mm-hmm. And it was strawberry, right?
It was, yes. Yes, and they're just literally going to talk bumpkin for like the next several pages.
Yeah, they talk bumpkin. Dana picks
Insert
up on
talk
it too.
bumpkin. Yes, and Shayan is great for this. Dear that, but they're talking about a barrow or a barrow hill, as he comes to figure out.
Not barrel.
Not barrel, a barrow hill.
Yep.
They were like, oh, well, it was probably something else because there's been no barrows in this area. But still, comes to show. I can't remember there's literally anything else. I just immediately going peck, 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 pecks.
Yeah, no, it's like Koth just comments on Denna's ear. He's like, you have a mimic's ear, and it's perfect.
Yeah, it's literally, I've got a mimic's ear, she gave it in a different shrug. I pick up things like that pretty quickly. Surprise the hell out of Moit. damn, I'm gonna have this. It's gonna be a span of days getting rid of that accent,
Yeah.
like a piece of gristle in my teeth.
I love
Except
that.
I've just been prepared.
He's like, it's stuck now. This is with me. And I find that to be the case with doing accents. They just kind of stick, and you'll get out of it, and then you'll slowly go back into it, being like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it again.
I would know a thing about that. No, not at all.
Yeah,
No, not at all. Not pegs.
But it is also mentioned that like barrows here are kind of unheard of because the practice is done more traditionally where you can't build a grave, and the nearest barrow that's known for practice is like 500 miles away. So these stones were not used to build barrows normally, but even if they were, it wouldn't be quarried and finished like the stone for the house is, right? Pot continues to say that the place had aged and Barrow Hill is a relic from the past in terminology. So there could have been, a fortification that was at this place. He stands to reason that it was probably a hill fort that once stood there. Because that stone is strong.
Yes, and you can see, what did he say? 30 miles in any direction from there. It would make sense to have a hill fort there.
Mm-hmm. And he states that it's the second tallest hill, and then he points over at the tallest hill, and he's like, that's the only one that's tallest, but they didn't build it there because it's too sharp and narrow for you to build any fortification on. So they built it here in this one, but if we go to that one, we could see all around us for miles, so we should set camp up there for the night.
Yes, and with the duel of effort of if Denna's patron is around and wants to be circumspect in avoiding town, showing up at a campfire wouldn't be nearly as circumspect or suspicious.
Right. So their plan here is to, light their fire up top there so that the patron could see and come to it, rather than going to look for him in every direction that he could be. Sound reasoning checks out. And then that leads us to chapter 74.
Yes, which is a kind of a short and sweet chapter. We have it after they get to the hill fort and everything, and they're both exhausted. Remember, she is still injured from a Chandrian battle, even if she hit or did anything else. But they decide that they are going to be staying there, and Kavoth he feels rain, but Denna assures him that it won't last long, that it'll rain for a half hour and then be done. And Kavoth is happy about that because the man does not like sleeping out in the rain. Who does? Oh, I'm sorry. This is when we have Kavoth making her a lovely meal of roast pork with salt, pepper, and sage, and he puts some apples into the coals to bake, and is just generally being a really good sport about this. He's got some cheese, he's got some flatbread. Honestly, sounds like an amazing camping meal. I want it.
Mm-hmm. Does sound great.
And this is when he figures out that the strawberry wine should have absolutely been a thing. They could have spent the night flirting and drinking strawberry wine, as Kavoth keeps picturing like this, oh, well, she'll ask to bathe or something, and I'll be appropriately a far distance away, and we'll be talking, and something will happen, and I'm gonna have to go save her.
Going back to
like,
those
oh.
thoughts, yeah.
It's like, my boy, you need to be more careful. But almost immediately after the sun goes down, Kavoth sees a flicker of blue flame. And immediately, what do we know? Blue flame, Chandrian. So needless to say, things get a little bit hectic there. But Denna is going, no, it can't be that. Why? There should not be blue flame. And then there's another flare. And Kavoth questions whether or not this is a signal from Denna's patron to signal her. It's like, no, that's not him. And he wouldn't do that with blue fire. That's altogether too sinister even for him. So they continue to watch that, and they're staying by their fire. And we're gonna have a bunch of back and forth with like, Why would the Chandrian attack at this specific place at this specific time?
Mhm.
What did the father or whoever made that find that, and then brag about it, that would cause the Chandrian to come eliminate them all? What happened? And they're doing everything that they can to go through this, and I'm trying to, like, there's so much dialogue between these two, and it's
Yeah.
insufferable.
Yeah, it's pretty much Denna kind of like showing her intellect a little bit to Koth too, saying like, oh, the reason why they would have waited for the wedding is because they would have all gathered there, and it was the perfect time for the Chandrian to strike. Then it is taking the secret and then wiping everyone out that knew about it, right?
Yes.
So it kind of gives you a little insight to like the smaller things that Koth overlooks. Denna picks up on. So she's kind of clever in her own right. Trying to see if there's anything else before the thing happens.
I don't really think so. It's them just kind of going back and forth and reflecting on everything that they've discovered that day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's just a back and forth of why. Why.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could take it from there.
Yes, and Kaboth does so gracious, lets her use his cloak. His beautiful cloak. So, cue a little bit of a cut later in the evening, where Kaboth wakes from a dream to Denna already awake and telling him to be quiet. And he's convinced that it's just the wind. She says it's absolutely not. And then she hears the sound of a leg-thick branch being torn from a tree. And that's not a good sound. It's not storming, it's not doing anything, so what is happening?
Yeah.
And there was a roaring sound that he says was like, it's kind of like a lion roar, but you feel it in your chest. And it was like a grunt and deeper. And then another branch broke, almost on the crest of the hill. So, Kaboth grabs Denna's arm and says that they are going to go up on, what is it, the hillock? What is the word they use for it? I always thought it was a cliff.
Oh my gosh, the like
Where's the
archways, or the
Yeah, they end up going up on the top of stone because at
Yeah.
least if they can't climb a tree, because obviously it can take down trees.
Yeah.
But they get to the top of the stone they're on, and that they lay there, they're panting, and then they see a big-ass lizard. Not like, Komodo dragon size. No, we're talking mother effing dragon size. And it has a burst of blue light. And the thing what it does... does it say what it does yet?
Not yet.
No.
They just
But-
describe like it being
Blue.
6 feet high, shoulder at the shoulder, and
15
15
feet
feet
long.
long, massive as a dozen bulls tied together. What?
Yes. And there's a burst of blue flame. Denna's crying out. And it's a dragon. Dun dun dun.
That was the last words in the chapter too. It was a dragon. I think you should take the interlude too because it's
thank you,
short
thank
and
you.
sweet,
Because
yeah.
it's the shortest chapter you could physically imagine. So, we cut back to an interlude at the Waystone Inn. And things are quiet. And Kafoth is just sitting back going, I am giving you the opportunity to say something right now. I just said that I saw a dragon. What you gonna do? And the chronicler just says, what do you want me to do? I said I was going to write down everything you said. I wasn't going to change a word. If you say you saw a dragon, I have to write down that you saw a dragon. And, of course, Kavath puts in the dig that this comes from the author of The Mating Habits of the Common Dracus. And what? He's not going to question this? And Bass chimes in, because Bass can, just to add to the situation. And we go right back into it, with Chronicler just casually saying, very well. It was a dragon.
And I think it was like so funny that Bass was like, I didn't agree to anything. I'll say it, Reishi.
I'll say it. It wasn't a dragon.
And Kamatha's like, have you ever heard of white mutiny? He's like, there are a few things as nauseating as pure obedience. So yeah, it's just Kamatha being like testing the waters and kind of being ticked that nobody will challenge him. And he's like,
Yeah.
fine, it's a fucking dragon. So that brings us to chapter 76. I thought that was just like a cute part for Bast again to like make a little cameo. I love Bast so much. It just like any like action that he does to add to the story is amazing.
Yes.
But it's few and far between in this book, and every time he pops up, I'm just like, yes, I love this. But
Bast is best boy.
chapter 76 kicks right back off in this story, interlude over. Dennis says it's a dragon, and Cloth is like, no, it's a Dracus. Like, I studied this. It doesn't eat meat, it's an herbivore like a big cow. And Denna is just like, moo. And they both start laughing. Like, hysterically on top of this rock after almost dying.
I mean, what else are you gonna do?
I mean, it's definitely like one of those adrenaline-filled moments that a lot of people get, like right after they narrowly escape death, they just start laughing. You know, that is a valid reaction.
No, I would entirely understand that.
It's a great big cow lizard.
Yay, cow lizard.
Or a lizard cow. Or cow lizard. But Cloth also states they eat whole trees and they have flat teeth. After Denna was like, yeah, and those teeth, and Cloth is like, what? They're flat. And he's like, the fire, they just use it as a mating display. I learned it at university. Denna goes on to say that, is it going to try to top the campfire? As she gets another laugh again. The Dracus begins to roll on the fire, snuffing it out, and then Cloth ventured to say it probably weighs about 5 tons. The Dracus snuffs out, rolling on the burning pieces, and then eats the logs after they're extinguished. The Dracus just kind of like does like one of those puppy dog turns around in their beds, you know how they do circles, and then it just plops itself right on the coals. And Quoth is like, ooh, that has to hurt, but it's a reptile, and we'll get to what its scales are made of in a little bit. So this thing is like, just like, oh yes, heat source, I love this, thank you. Cloth offered the cloak again to... Well, first he says, like, oh, it has to be at least 200 years old. Thing weighs as much as an Indian elephant. Yeah, and I like how, like, oh, this is just science. Like, that thing's a dragon, right? Would you call it a dragon? I'd call it a dragon.
I call it a dragon.
Hell yeah, it breathes fire and it's humongous. Like, that's a dragon. Like, what's the qualifications for them to say it's a dragon? Does it have to fly, too?
Technically, probably.
I mean, I guess. Like, do all dragons fly, though?
I think technically yes, but you would have to consider ones that don't as drakes, if I remember right. I don't know. I'm not big on dragons. I was a paladin. I just slayed them.
Understandable. The classical ones do? Okay. Allor is our chronicler in chat.
Or secretly chronicle. It is canon.
It's canon now. So, Quoth offers his cloak again, so Denna could sleep, and Denna remarks, you really know how to show a girl a good time, and he's like, I watched her sleep with the calm contentment of a boy who has no idea of how foolish she is, or what unexpected tragedies the following day will bring. That's the last line.
Yeah.
So prepping, you got your armor on, right?
Yes.
So chapter 70 77. Then informs Cloth of him tipping onto her in his sleep when he notices he is wearing his cloak again. She's like, I almost cursed you out, but then I realized it would do no good. You're asleep. So
Pretty much.
Denna sees his skin knuckles from his failed jumping attempt. And I
Your
think,
hands, your beautiful hands.
yeah, we kind of like skipped over that part, but yeah, he did have a hard time getting up the stone, whereas Denna was just like boosted up by him. He had to take like a running jump, and his whole body smashed against the stone before he was pulled up by Denna. Even cultures where dragons don't have wings still fly. Yeah, I thought about that. I was like, there are dragons without wings, but they still fly. So I guess you're right in that respect. I'm gonna have to do some research on the topic because I'm genuinely interested if there are dragons in fantasy that are considered dragons even though they don't fly. He was pulled up by his shirt. Yeah,
His poor clothes.
it's constantly. He only has 2 shirts. Well, 3 now. Well, actually 2, because the other one.
One's in a pot.
Yeah. It's bad. He could never get over 3 shirts in his wardrobe. Poor guy. So Denna asks, "Are you hurt?" They get down from the top, helping each other, and kind of the contents of his bag spilling all over as he's lowered down on a rope. Denna sees the star iron, and Cloth explains how it works with galvanic force, and he's like, otherwise, I don't know how to explain it. That's just what they taught me.
Which is entirely fair.
Then he explains how the lizards also eat rocks after finding a scale as large as his palm in a teardrop shape. And he gives it to Denna, and she says, I'll have to look for one for you. So they get into the spiel about how birds and lizards actually do eat rocks for digestive purposes. There's a lot of like just very accurate, but like kind of like factoids that you would find on like Snapple teacaps, right? In this book, there's a lot of that. I almost feel like he was drinking Snapple, and he's like, how can I integrate this one?
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, but I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of good bits of knowledge. He goes on to say like the gizzards help with digestion as well. The rocks kind of float around in their stomach afterward, and then pass. After making their way to, actually, I think I forgot a part here. He explains that it's made up of mostly iron, and then Cloth points out a smoldering plume in the distance, and he shows concern for Master Ash or her patron. After making their way to a smoldering tree, they smell something kind of rotting in the air, and they find a small cabin crushed to cinders, and they see an arm lying under a heavy log, saying whoever it was has been dead for about 2 span. And they find a broken crossbow that's smashed to bits beyond repair, right?
Yes, the Cabal ends up taking the bolts.
Right. And he only notices that it is a crossbow because of the blue steel reinforced bar that it has. And he remarks it's made for war. He says that they're also illegal, and Denna is like, you think those laws are enforced out here? We're in the backwoods. So Cloth wonders why a person in the country would have need of such a piece of machinery. He also questions why the Dracus keeps coming back to the spot. The tree has been dead for a span of days, and another tree has been dead for about a few days ago. So the Dracus continually comes back to the spot. Denna reasons that the Chandrian weren't there because the metal isn't rusting away. She's right. The splintering was heard again, all of a sudden. And they kind of like scramble as they hear roars approaching them yet again. Denna points to a break in the cliffs, and they squeeze into a narrow gap. After a dozen feet, it widens, and Denna sees a ladder. She points to it, and she's like, I'm going up there. Quoth feels heat at his back, and kind of notices that the Dracus is clawing at the side here of the entrance, and is breathing fire at his back.
Yeah.
So
Rest in peace, his clothes.
yeah, his shirt is beyond repair at this point. They get to the top of this lookout where the ladder leads, and there's a wooden box up against the wall. It's a wool blanket, water skin, dried meat, and crossbow bolts. Cloth went on to talk about how the Dracus breathes fire, storing gas of its excrement, and lighting it is still unknown, but he mentions that the author of the Common Dracus, Mating Habits of the Common Dracus, guessed that they used arsenic to chemically ignite the gas. What a time he could have asked Chronicler at this part, right?
Yeah, it turns out we got a chronicler.
The leading expert. After seeing that there is rows of trees planted in the forest, they're like, why would they need to plant trees in a forest? Something isn't adding up. They wonder what kind of trees the Dracus is eating because they are different. He's like, are they maple? Is it after sweets? And this thing is definitely after a certain type of sweet. But
Yeah.
they go to the other side of the crevasse and down the ladder again. Denna finds a fire pit and pries a large disc of sticky material from the bottom of a pan and takes a bite. And Quamp kind of notices this is going on and yells to her to spit it out immediately and rinse it, but they have no water. So that's kind of like another naive moment here of these two children running around on these journeys. She just notices something was being cooked and eats it because she's hungry.
Maple candy!
Yeah.
Your mouth doesn't taste like maple candy.
No, spit that out, right? It's,
Yep.
She's instructed to wash her mouth out and eat some charcoal, and she did begrudgingly in a panic after, like, hearing how Quoth has, like, kind of snapped at this moment, showing a different side of himself. And he explains that it's not trees that it's eating, it's actually denner trees, or ophalum.
Fallon.
Phallum. Ophalum.
Yes.
Oh.
Denner resin.
It's denner resin. So this lizard is getting freaking high as it's eating the trees
The
and
lizard is a sweet eater.
creating an addiction. How terrifying. An armored lizard,
That is
15 feet long, weighing 5 tons, just mad on crack.
Yep.
So I believe it was also mentioned before this, like, is the lizard rabid? Right? They did say that.
They were like, oh, that would be a bad idea. Can lizards even get the froth?
Yeah. So this explains things. Why the lizard is coming back here. Why did I eat the trees? Because I got high.
Really?
100%. So Denna, this is like her first time doing this stuff. Or I think we're supposed to assume, right? Denna asks about the charcoal and it being a chemical sponge. I believe he says it's like 6 parts for every 10 or
6
something.
parts of 10
Yeah.
it'll eliminate.
So Denna is like shoveling mouthfuls of charcoal or coal into her at this point, and Koth kind of like notices her smile and it's all black and kind of has a little laugh to himself, and he goes to test Denna's bruise, noticing she has no flinch reaction and her pupils are sluggish, responding to light. He wonders if the resin was pure or refined, stating that the more pure it is, it would have more time to work through the system. And that's what he's hoping for. So Denna goes to say that Koth's eyes do change. They go dark for a moment. And when she remembers back to when the swineherder made a comment about the room, she noticed his eyes did change. Koth gathers up the crossbow bolts, saying that they're worth money, and then the convo turns to the resin, and they're like, we could get rich off this. Moral of the story here is, like, they both need money. And they're not both above selling resin. And Koth kind of, like, justifies it, saying that the university could benefit, apothecaries could benefit, many people could get helpful drugs from the partitioning of this resin and the refinement of the resin. They talk of Denna not feeling so well, but it being an unknown feeling and how she can relate to the Dracus after ingesting the resin. So she's like, I kind of get why it's going crazy, because like this feeling is actually pretty good, right?
Yes.
They venture it's been eating the trees for nearly 3 or 4 days straight. Boss speaks of the desperate nature that resin gives people, and saying that the lizard will go out and look for more if there's none left, right? Like, and then he's like, we're gonna have to kill it.
Yeah.
Traven is only 5 miles from here, and Koth is like, there are people and their families out there. We're gonna have to take care of this problem. So they go back to the house and they dig around, hoping that the man had sense to buy a second crossbow. Instead, Koth finds a barrel, and inside of the barrel is an oilcloth sack with Denner resin, about 4 times as much as Denna and him had scraped up together. So Denna says that she looks at it and she's like, I can buy a pony.
Jeez, hi.
I fully think like this was meant to be like the drugs are working now. Like, she is definitely high as fuck, right?
Yes.
So Koth is like, I don't know about a pony, but you could get at least a half harp with this, right?
Yes.
And she then gets like close to his face and she's like, what do you want? And then roar.
Yeah, he also does make a point to say that there is pretty much a special place in hell for men who take advantage of women and people when they are intoxicated,
Mhm.
and that is one term that will never be truthfully put to him.
Right. He will never be associated with anything but a gentleman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna take 78 if you'll take 79. Is that cool?
Sure.
So 78 begins with the Dracus is seen leveling out an oak tree, kind of flinging its body on top of this thing, and it kind of like nudges this thing with its head, and it brings up the root system from the ground. Like, that's how powerful this thing is. When it's jumping, it's also seen jumping onto like a splintered limb of the tree, and how it just literally hit the scales of this thing and splintered in 2,000 pieces. Like, impaling this creature is not an option. And Koth has said, like, looking at the horror and the immense nature of this thing and saying, there's no way we can kill that. Dennis says to make a fire in a tree branch on a cliffside. She kind of explains it in a roundabout way, but Koth says like, oh, this is the square cube ratio. We learned that at university. Talking of the heavier creature is, the heavier it will fall. I didn't know of the name of that beforehand, but I also always wondered that why if you fling an ant off a cliff, it will do nothing, but you fling a person and splat. So square cube ratio is what we have to think. So they get to discussion, thinking about how to kill this thing, and Cloth is questioned about any magic and kind of considers using a Mamet for a brief second, but he goes on to say that the source that they would need would be way too great, and he doesn't know if the sympathetic nature of just having one of its scales is enough to even do damage to this thing, seeing as it does like heat, right? So they talk of poison, and she's like, well, we need 2 buckets full of arsenic for this thing. But then they're like, wait, we do have something, right? All of these drugs.
We have drugs. We can make the lizard OD.
So Quattha then explains he doesn't know how much they have, and it ate all the trees, and he wants to be closer to Traven if he needs to carry Denna to any doctors, as he doesn't know the full effect that this resin is going to have on Denna. So he's still thinking of her, and he's like, we need to kill this thing today.
Yeah, because it knows to go after the smell of people to find the sweets.
5-ton cow lizard. Oh, I do have an actual picture of the Dracus that I'm going to have to send you afterward, too, that's in the book. It's pretty terrifying.
Please do.
And then we actually had, like, 2 other scenes that were mapped out of Denna and Cloth being cute together. So I'll send you those afterward.
Yes, please.
But 79, this brings us up to the end of our reading, and it's not a full resolution, but it gives us something to look forward to for the next chapters, right?
Yes. So as we kick off, the effects of the Denna resin on Denna/Deborah has been getting a lot stronger. So her mania has been admitted by Kavoth to be more than a hindrance than a help, but he is using her to collect firewood and do what they can once they get back to Waystone Hill. And Kavoth is starting to struggle a little bit because he's trying to figure out how much Denner resin will kill a Dracus, which is not something that he can equate for, has any kind of equipment for, and doesn't know. So he starts off with a ball, and Denna remarks, how much are you going to use? And shows her the ball, and Denna says, just give him all of it. And Kavoth doesn't think that's entirely necessary, and we need the money. And Kavoth says, no, you need the money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, Denna makes a comment about, do you know the story about the boy with the golden arrow? It always bothered me because you have to want something dead real damn bad if you're willing to use golden arrows to kill it. And that legitimately is a good way to put it.
Right.
But it keeps on going with, like, he picks up, like, a ball that's about the size of an apricot. And she's like, are you sure that's enough? This thing is, like, 5,000 pounds and has also been eating Denner resin nonstop for days. I'm not sure that's gonna cut it. And with every comment, he keeps on plopping on more and more Denner resin.
Yeah, I think it starts out with, like, he makes guesswork with pellets, and he's like, well, Denna had this much, so I'm gonna triple that, and then I'm gonna triple it again, and then Denna was like, oh, well, it's been eating trees for a month. Okay, well, then I'm gonna add 5 more apricot-sized balls to it. And then Denna's like, well, we don't know the physiology of a lizard, and maybe it acts different for lizards than it does with mammals. So Kavoth is like, okay, I'm gonna add 5 more to the bucket. And by the end of it, it was like a third of all the resin they had acquired, right? And then Denna's like, well, maybe we should double it. And Kavoth's like, yes, we're gonna double that. So 2/3 of all the resin that they had is gone into this. We did skip over one thing I wanted to mention, where they did actually go to that 6-inch stream, and Denna was like, I'm going to bathe. And Cloth was like, okay, but I'm going up very far upstream. And this was supposed to be indication of Denna's mania at this point. She had made many not too subtle invitations to Cloth at this point when they were bathing as well.
Yes, and Kavoth was very happy by the fact that apparently this stretch of water was only about 6 inches deep.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm trying to catch.
Yeah,
It's okay,
I
it's
always get lost, as
But-
it tends to happen with this, you know?
Yes, but they decide that after making this giant-ass ball of denner resin that they start their fire, and they start a good-sized bonfire in hopes that it is going to bring in the Drakus. And it will. But they have their dinner with now stale flatbread, some dried meat, and the last of the potatoes baked in the edge of the fire. That still sounds good. I love a potato right now.
I love
And-
potatoes.
While they ate, Kavoth told Denna about the fire in the fishery because he was, and I quote, I was young, male, and desperately wanted to impress her, but I also wanted to make it clear that I had missed our lunch date due to circumstances completely outside my control.
And I think like a little bit of him wanted to explain for that scene where she was walking out and Fellow was like almost embracing him, right? Like had her arms around him and putting on the cloak.
Yeah.
So there was like a little like, I need to make up for this.
Yes, and at least the fact at this point that Kavoth is no longer worried about her overdosing at all. If she was going to, she was going to already. But then Denna makes a comment when Kavoth asks how is it breathing,
I
and
love
says,
this.
my chest is tight. It's like breathing through pudding. Did I say pudding? I meant molasses, like sweet molasses pudding. And it's like, Denna, what the fuck? You were supposed to tell me if you were having trouble breathing. And she's like, yeah, well, I sometimes just have trouble breathing. It just happens. He's like, Denna!
She makes another comment too. Do you remember that one?
Oh, is it the one where, unbutton your shirt a little, I need to press my ear against your chest to listen to your breathing? It's like, well, I've never heard that one before.
No, it's she's like, your face is the perfect kitchen.
Yes.
And she's like, the fruit bowl is right where it should be. I think that was right after, so I might have messed up your flow there, but I had to say it.
It's okay, I don't know. But Kavoth makes sure, it's like, you're fine, just tell me if anything changed. She's like, yeah. And then she does laugh. I think, did I call your face a sugar bowl or something? Am I even making sense? He's like, it's the delirium. You'll be better when you sleep.
Oh, okay, Ludo. She mentions pneumonia as a child, which is why her lungs are bad.
Yes. And yeah, that happens just like right after that. So she mentions the fact that she had pneumonia, and that's why her lungs are bad. And yeah, he says another 7 words
Mm-hmm.
because of course he does.
Mm-hmm.
And she's put to bed, if I'm remembering correct, right?
Yeah. But
And I believe her comment is, damn chicken, come eat your dinner, I'm cold.
yeah. And I think he's kind of like sitting, and I picture like her laying in his lap, and she's like, well, why don't you come join me? She motions to him to get under the blanket.
He's like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Scared. Completely scared.
Well, also just trying to be, a decent person. And at this, it makes a comment, it's like, you're so gentle, you never push. But you could push a little.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes into the deep sleep of a Denner user that is just completely deep. You're not waking them up for anything. It's just happening. Yes, and it mentions that she's curled snugly along his body, just like it was meant to be there.
Voodoo.
And he had been wrong before. This was in fact the most wonderful moment of his life.
Kind of sad.
Yes.
But like, even now, like as he's telling the story, him saying this was the most wonderful moment, kind of hits different, right?
Yeah.
Like he's near 30 now. So
Not in this exact moment in the book, but
no. When he's telling the story, right?
true. Yeah. Sorry. But she is kind of like dozing in and out right now, but she knows that Ash didn't die on the farm, and she's surprised if she was the only one that survived, and pretty much him going, I have nowhere else to go, I have to do things, and going, Denna, you have people, you have Deok, you have everything. She's like, well, I have you, don't I? And it's like, I'm sorry. Manser talking to Denna. Honey, Kavoth can't even take care of himself. He can't take care of 3 shirts. How is he supposed to take care of you? Get yourself someone better, please.
Yeah, she's
He's
like,
not mature enough, honey.
he's the only loaf I have, and Denna was like, well, after Kavad is like, you've got, like, just stuttering, because he doesn't want to say me, right? Denna's like,
Yeah.
I've got you. And what does she say? Something about Prince Gallant?
Will you, my dark-eyed Prince Gallant, will you be my dark-eyed Prince Gallant and protect me from pigs? From the pigs? Sing to me, whisk me away to tall trees. And then she trails off into nothing, and he just says, I will. Because of course he does.
Oh yeah, I did forget that part too, Aller. Denna does mention having frequent nightmares.
She does. She has trouble sleeping at night and has quite frequent nightmares.
So her getting to sleep this fast and easy is not commonplace for her, but you know, manic, delirium, drug onset will do that to a person.
Oh yeah, she makes a comment. She's like, it's weird. I am really scared right now, but I don't care.
Yeah. She's like, I don't know what this feeling is, but I have it, and I don't hate it. Completely relates to Lizard. She's like, I understand now. But that is where our chapter ends. So
Yes, and
Mhm.
judging by the looks of it, I have the book in front of me. I think the next one we should just go to the end. It's like 10 chapters and like 3 pages of change.
I'm trying to see where we're at in this.
We're at chapter 80.
Chapter
Yeah,
80.
12 chapters left.
91, 92. And well, I mean, we can definitely do that. I think we should probably do that, but I do want to read for you guys what's written in the afterword here, because we do get like insight onto like the Turin calendar. We have like the seeds of the empire. We have like a few notable things here talking about the currencies as well. So like there's kind of like a little footnote collection at the end of the story here, and there's also
That must be your anniversary edition.
it is. There's also a guide on pronunciations. Oh my god, I could have been using this. Kicking
More in the
myself.
mouth, more in the head.
But yeah, also a little bit on Rothfuss talking about his inspiration and his journey as a writer, and I would love to read that for you guys. It's just a short little bit of 3 pages that gives you insight onto his inner workings and his struggle and his journey to get here with writing a best-selling fantasy novel. And for me, it was really uplifting to read as a fellow writer.
I think we could do that.
Yeah, so I guess we're going to polish off the book next round. How do you guys feel about that?
Stoked.
There's a video of Rothfuss just saying weirder names out loud. I think we should probably pull that up on next stream too.
We probably should.
Next stream might run a little bit longer. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Just because it being the end of the book and it being a few more chapters than what we're used to, and then a little bit of bonus information that I'm sure everybody would love to hear.
I think we can do that.
But yeah, that's what we got for you for this week, guys. It only gets more exciting from here, I promise you. If you're not sold on the story yet, you will be by the end of this book, and the second book, you're gonna be hooked, 100%.
Oh, book 2 is going to offer some chapters that are going to be real awkward to talk about.
Yeah. And I am excited to go back through that again because I think up until this point I've only read it twice and it's been a while since I've read, so.
Yeah.
But getting to where we gotta go next here, I'm gonna look for somebody to raid. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Nut.
God damn it, Minnie. But I do want to thank everybody for being here in chat. You guys make this what it is. It's amazing for me to go over something that I love with all y'all and with Minnie. And I nut every time. But yeah, thank you all for being here. And I can't wait to see you next week to top off this large-ass book that we have read together. Hell yeah, brother. Oh, Kira is streaming. Kira is like my old faithful here.
Kira's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Kira again. I hope you guys don't mind. Be prepared for loud sounds and hypeness because that is Kira P. Raptor Girl, okay?
Oh no, she's doing a harem app review. We're doomed.
That's a large mode switch for everybody, but I think you'll enjoy it. Kira is a great content creator. I'm going to go ahead and get us to the ending stream, but once again, thank y'all. Tomorrow is Friday, and it's going to be weekend. Once again, thank y'all. Tomorrow. And
Weekend.
as always, you know, let's build a better tomorrow together, one day at a time, and one step at a time. Your number one hero, and Mancer. Yeeting into oblivion, signing out. Actually, Felix brings up a point. If you like D&D, we are doing Sunday D&D sessions on Felix's channel. Come through. I forgot to mention. Hope's Fall. We are 16. This is going to be our 16th episode in, and it is getting crazy. The story is a complete original by Felix. Come through. We love to see it. Mancer's going to her home. Now we're ending. Signing out. Bye-bye.
Bye.